We are so excited to offer these unique discussions to help you transform your business to create a more sustainable future. I am Melanie Fleming, Marketing Manager for Pure Strategies. Our team provides sustainability consulting to companies looking to develop goals, enhance their sustainability program, and implement changes in their products, packaging, and supply chains. We are offering these webinars to help companies advance environmental and social performance in their business, helping to show you the possibilities for change and empower you with insights from those at the forefront. You can find our past webinars, research reports, and resources on our website, purestrategies.com, including information about work we have done for Seventh Generation, Walmart, Ben & Jerry's, and other sustainability leaders. Your host today, Tim Greiner, Managing Director of Pure Strategies and co-founder of Pure Strategies and the Chemical Footprint Project, has been providing custom sustainability solutions to corporate clients for over 20 years. During this 45-minute webinar, Tim will be talking with Bethany Davis, Director of Social Impact, MegaFood, and Jordan Pratt, Farm Director, Kauai Organic Farms. Together, they will explore how MegaFood, a vitamin and supplement company and fellow B Corp, developed a program to advance regenerative agriculture and help facilitate how farmers learn about soil health best practices and improve farm social and environmental performance. Beth is also president for the Coalition for Supplement Sustainability, a group of supplement and ingredient companies that united to support a non-GMO and sustainable supply chain. In addition to her service on the Board of Trustees for the American Botanical Council, Bethany is also a member of the American Herbal Products Association Board of Trustees. She is deeply engaged with agricultural issues, including regenerative agricultural practices and sustainability and transparency as they relate to the supplement industry. Jordan comes from a multi-generation farming family that has farmed in the Central Valley of California since the 1850s. Jordan has farmed a variety of crops, including almonds, pistachios, walnuts, corn, wheat, blueberries, beef cattle, and now ginger and turmeric. Today, Tim and Bethany and Jordan will dive into the benefits of regenerative agricultural practices and how healthy soil can actually help to stabilize our climate, restore biodiversity, and support farm worker livelihoods. They will also share the transformation of Kauai Organic Farms and how they improved farm productivity and the positive impacts that they have attained through the use of cover crops. We aim to have time at the end of their conversation to cover your questions. The audience will be muted, so please provide your questions in the Q&A field. I will ask as many questions as time will allow. The recording of this session will also be posted on the Pure Strategies website. And now, without further ado, I'd like to hand it off to Tim.
Thank you, Melanie. Appreciate the introduction. Welcome all to this conversation with Bethany and Jordan. I can't tell you how much I've been looking forward to this conversation with the two of you. We've been collaborating together for a couple of years, and today's a great opportunity for us to look back and look forward, both on the MegaFood side and MegaFood's regenerative ag work, as well as Jordan, your work at Kauai Organic Farms. So welcome, glad to have you here. And I guess what I'd love to do is just to start off, Bethany, with you. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself, your role at MegaFood, and then dive a little bit into, maybe just start off with your role in the company and its commitment to regenerative agriculture. I believe you're on mute. There you go.
Sorry. Sure. Yeah, I'm Bethany. I've been working for MegaFood for over 10 years now. And that's exciting because we've been on a journey with all of this work over the last decade. And I've gotten to have like touch points along the whole journey. My role is Director of Social Impact and Advocacy. So all the changes that we're excited about seeing in the world, all the ways that we kind of want to be the change, I get to involve myself with. So whether that's pieces of legislation on either a state level or a federal level or coalition building, all that work's included, but primarily we're focused on where we touch things. So within our own company and within our own supply chain, that's where there's the greatest potential for us to create structures that we really want to see. So all of our farm partners, we're a multivitamin nutrition company, an herbal company, and we buy a lot of different foods and fruits and vegetables and herbs in order to make those products. And so it's really exciting to be really directly connected to our farmers. We do a lot of manufacturing in New Hampshire, so often we're able to buy whole foods directly from farmers to make our products. And so we really focus there. So a big part of my job is meeting farm partners and finding people who have a similar vision for an agricultural system, a regenerative one, and collaborating with them, working with them, and making sure that we're supporting them just as they support us with the products that they grow and all the programs that branch out of that work. So that's my main job.
Great, thanks, Bethany. And I want to come back to digging in a little bit more on the regenerative ag piece of that in a few minutes, but maybe we'll just turn to Jordan. Jordan, it's an impressive introduction. You've been a lifelong farmer and come from a farming family. Could you tell us a little bit more about that journey, your personal journey on farming, and then transition us into telling us a little bit about Kauai Organic Farms?
Sure. Yeah, thanks for having me on today, Tim. So I started in the background of beef cattle. My parents used to own about 15,000 acres in Oregon and grew beef cattle, wheat, alfalfa, those kinds of crops. And our California operation grew predominantly cotton and corn and wheat. Right after high school, I got a beginning farmer's loan, and I farmed some beef cattle, leased a feedlot, and then ended up moving to California, working for my family, growing the row crops and walnuts. And then I started a farm management company where I managed almonds, pistachios, walnuts, cherries, and then diversified with some new partners and started planting organic blueberries. And then just about 2 years ago, we bought Kauai Organic Farms and hit the ground running.
Jordan, for folks who don't know, where is Kauai Organic Farms? And tell us a little about the acreage, the system there, the crops you're growing.
Okay, yeah, we're located in the state of Hawaii on the island of Kauai. We're on the very north shore of Kauai. We can see the ocean from the farm. It's beautiful here. We farm a little over 50 acres and predominantly just two crops, ginger and turmeric. And we have two varieties of turmeric, Hawaiian yellow and Hawaiian red, and they're both known as canoe plants. So the Polynesians brought all three of these varieties to Hawaii. So they've been here for a couple thousand years.
Great. And are those the crops that you're growing for MegaFood?
That's correct. Yeah, MegaFood buys both of our crops, and they're one of our largest customers, and they've been absolutely great to work with.
Awesome. Well, let's turn back to Bethany for a sec. Bethany, could you tell us a little bit about, dive in deeper on the regen journey at MegaFood and maybe a little bit of that personal story about how you got connected to regenerative agriculture?
Sure. Yeah. Well, MegaFood is sort of an anomaly. The global supply chain is really, for the dietary supplement industry, it's like things change hands a lot of times. So it's sort of novel to have this direct connection to farmers. So we have always had that because we're making things on site. We were always really committed on organic and making sure that we've been testing our products herbicide, pesticide free and non-GMO, project verified. Those are always the values of the company since before I started. And I went down to do a farm visit in Costa Rica at Finca Luna Nueva and with one of my mentors. His name's Tom Newmark. And I got this farm tour that kind of blew my mind a little bit. And he was showing me how they grow things. It's basically forest farmed and there's companion crops everywhere. And it doesn't look like a farm. It didn't look like farms I was used to seeing. And he was telling me about all the benefits of the way that they do things, and it's biodynamic, and they plant based on moon cycles. And there's all these things that I didn't understand that I was learning about. And then he let me know that part of the reason that they choose to educate so many people at this farm is because the World Health Organization had the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization had basically said that we have 60 harvests left, but the way that we're treating our topsoils globally is really bad for the soil. And basically there's desertification problems, and we're releasing a lot of carbon from soil that's leading to climate change, and that modern industrial agriculture is sort of killing global topsoils, and that we won't be able to grow food in it for that much longer, like on average 60 years, which, I mean, it blew my mind. And I came home from that trip to the organization and was like, hey guys, we've been doing really great stuff here, but we're kind of missing this bigger piece that at the time no one was really talking about in our industry. And so in pretty short order, we were able to sort of dig deep, learn a lot about what we're calling regenerative agriculture, and basically turned our whole company around and focused on this. Our current company, that was 5 years ago, and our current company, BHAG, or Big Hairy Audacious Goal now, is to be the company most known for restoring the health of the soil, which is a pretty big BHAG, because a lot of people don't even know who we are because we're a relatively small company. But that's what we're really focused on. And so all of our programs and our marketing and how we think about building our products, I mean, really we're applying this lens to everything. And one of the things that we're really standing for is we want a regenerative supply chain. And so we have what we have, and we're inviting as many people into these practices as we can over time. And we really wanted this to have teeth, you know, like we wanted to be able to qualify and quantify what it is that we're doing. So we worked with Pure Strategies to develop what we call our Healthy Farm Standard, which is basically a supplier scorecard, where we're able to find out about what practices are happening on the farm, and we use it as a tool to connect with our supply chain, and we actually incentivize people financially and otherwise to implement more regenerative practices. So we're able to say that we're making a more and more regenerative supply chain over time. And then we're able to work with some really big, great companies like Ben & Jerry's and Annie's and Danone White Wave to help build the Soil Carbon Initiative standard, which is a global standard for measuring soil health. And that's what the last 5 years has looked like. And one of the really wonderful parts of all that work has been getting to know Jordan and doing some exciting stuff with him on his farm.
That is a lot in 5 years.
Yeah. Yep.
I have so many questions because I know pieces of it, having been collaborating with you. So you said a few things that stood out that I just wanted to maybe dive in a little bit. You said kind of we have what we have, right? So starting off, you had this supply chain that was partially organic. I don't know how much organic.
Largely. Yeah, over 90% of them.
Okay, over 90%. So like really doing well on the organic side of sourcing.
That's right.
Could you talk a little bit about like that shift? So you had the shift internally to focus on regenerative agriculture and soil health. Mm-hmm. What was that shift like in terms of, maybe let's first do internally with like key roles in the company, and then shift to externally, what the conversations are like with the farm partners.
Sure. Internally, it was interesting. I mean, I came back and I made an appointment with my CEO, and I said, listen, we've been doing great stuff, but we got to totally change the boat. We got to go this other direction now. And he was like, what are you talking about? And while that was happening, he was kind of like, okay, Bethany, interesting things were happening in our supply chain. So one of the ingredients we buy is saw palmetto. And organic saw palmetto only grows, I guess, in like Florida, and hurricanes had wiped it out, period. So we couldn't get that domestically and went into back order. And we make a lot of vitamin C, and we use oranges to do that. And we've been working with Uncle Matt's Organic Farm And they were having a major citrus greening issue, which is also linked to changing climate and weather. And so we were ordering issues there as well. And then even with rice, there was some flooding issues due to extreme weather where we had some rice problems. So it was like we were doing it. We're buying organic. We're doing what we thought we needed to do. And we could also see that there were real current impacts of a changing climate affecting our business, and even arguably sending us into back order, like loss of profit because we couldn't do the business we wanted to do, make the products we wanted to make because of extreme weather events related to climate change. So kind of pulling that piece of data together and helping, you just, even as a company, I mean, we care about nourishing people, and extreme weather events are having an impact on farmers and the food that we grow. And even when you think about desertification and people moving, I mean, there's desert areas that used to be so fertile in our planet, and so we would be very challenged to step into a role where everyone's truly nourished, which is what we want to see at MegaFood, without really directly addressing a changing climate and agriculture's role in that. So pretty quickly we were able to see that we had a pretty important role to play here. And we're good at explaining like the gut microbiome. Like people in supplements buy probiotics, they understand that, say, antibiotics are bad for your gut and that you need to support your gut, and there needs to be variability in foods that you eat. And that's a really easy comparison when you start to talk about soil. So it wasn't so hard to say, hey, this is where we really need to focus. So that was the initial conversation. Mm-hmm. And with our farmers, I mean, as long as we're always holding that, like, we're never going to tell we don't think we know how to do farmers' job better than they do. They know their soil, they know their crops, they know their land, and they know that things are hard. It's scary sometimes. I mean, people are running into drought and earlier frosts and all kinds of stuff, and they're really, if they've been in sort of a more modern industrial agricultural family for just one or two generations, they're really open and wanting to not have farming be so stressful. So we've found people to be really collaborative and open to learning, but as often as possible, we ask farmers to speak to other farmers and help introduce what are to some new practices and new concepts, but to people who've been farming long enough, it's just going back to the old ways and getting out of the way a little bit more to let farm systems run more in an integrated way. So yeah, we made some changes up top by making really easy, like, we can't not work on this, guys. We're not going to have anybody selling products to in 30 years if we're not smart about this. And so it was a pretty easy transition.
I've noticed internally how aligned the business is. So yeah, whether it's marketing or sourcing, for example, mm-hmm, and now even product development, like in terms of how you guys are thinking through new products or how you source new ingredients, it's impressive. Mm-hmm. And then externally with the farmers and the Healthy Farm Standard that you mentioned, where you've been rolling that out, it seems like there's been pretty good uptake among the producer community.
There's been pretty good uptake, and I wonder, we deal largely with specialty crops. There's not a lot of commodity crops that we work with. We do buy a good amount of rice, but there's really all these incentives at a governmental level that maybe prohibit people from experimenting with more regenerative practices, because, say, like, maybe you won't get your crop insurance if you didn't spray, pesticides at certain points during the grow season, or you didn't water at certain predetermined times. So what we wanted to do was stand for incentives to something that felt more aligned to us, and people have been really receptive to that. We put our money where our mouths were, and are basically trying to pilot different systems and see what we can do and what's possible. And it's been really exciting. People have been, our farm partners have been really into it.
Great. So Jordan, could you talk a little bit about your regenerative ag journey, and when did you first kind of, maybe this has been a practice that you've kind of, or like a way of thinking about producing and farming for years? Or just tell us a little bit about how you came to it and what that journey's been like.
Sure, Tim. I'd say my regenerative journey started actually as a conventional farmer. We started planting cover crops and our tree fruit. So multi-species, and we just have 3 species in there, but we plant, say, beans, barley, and oats, and our almonds to try and aerate the soil, get some microbiology flowing in the centers of our rows, because before it was just spray berm to berm, knock the weeds down. We didn't want anything else growing in there because it was hard to sweep the nuts up in the season. As time evolved, I became an organic farmer. And one thing that's really resonated with me on the regenerative front is if you as a farmer won't eat the food that you grow, there's a problem with that. And so in our household, we buy everything organic. Even at the time but we were growing conventional crops, and that didn't really make sense to me. And then there was the financial side of it organically that we thought we could do better. And then taking it one step further with regenerative, I liked the challenge, and I knew with organic we could achieve at least the same or better yields that we could conventionally. And then regenerative is just the next step on from there. So as you mentioned earlier, and Bethany mentioned, we've been working with MegaFood over here for the past couple of years, and you as well, and people like Tim LaSalle on multi-species cover crops. And we have blends of cover crops where we plant anywhere from 5 to 12 different varieties in one block. And the exciting thing about being here in Kauai is we can grow year round. So most climates only allow one cover crop per season, or permit one cover crop per season with cropping cycles. Whereas this past year, we did get as many as 5 cover crops in one season. And I'd say we average out around 4. So in working with MegaFood and trying to produce results that we can share with other people, it's exciting because we can get, up to as many, 4 times as much data in 1 year, as opposed to somewhere else on the mainland. We also built a Johnson Sioux bioreactor this year that we'll be using on the MegaFood trial. And the trial with MegaFood, what it is multi-species and a monospecies cover crop and different replicants across a block that we selected. That piece of ground had been sugarcane ground decades ago, but it just become ornamental lawn since, and we converted it back to a field and grew turmeric there this last year. And so with the different replicants, we will inoculate those with the slurry out of the bioreactor and look at how that corresponds to nutrient densities year after year, and if we can improve microbiology in the soil, nutrient density in the crops that we're growing there, which is turmeric, and everything else that goes along with healthy soils.
There's so many follow-up questions. So I know that we have before. What I'd love to dig into is, how are those multi-species cover crops? How are they working? What are you seeing? I'd love to dig into the farm trial pieces a bit, but before we go there, I know we've got a picture of your farm and then a picture of your trials. So maybe if we could put up a picture of the farm. I believe, Jordan, this is from the entrance to the farm, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's correct. So what you see in the first part is this is our crop last year. We've got ginger in the first block, and then a bit of a mix of ginger and turmeric there in the second block as you follow the hedgerow. That was early August last year, about a third of the way through the growing season. And then the ginger and turmeric will both senesce, so the tops will die, and that'll signal that they're ready to harvest. Another part of what we do on the cover cropping, we do it across the entire farm, is our rotation is typically turmeric, followed by 1 year of cover crops, followed by 1 year of ginger, followed by 1 year of cover crops. So we never plant back to back, and we always chase a block with cover crops for an entire calendar year. Even though we give up some acreage, we believe that it's better for the soil.
What kind of benefits are you seeing from the cover cropping program? And by the way, your farm is gorgeous. I mean, it is stunning.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to go there and be there personally. It's just an amazing place.
Yeah, so when the biggest benefit for me so far, the tangible benefit, is when we took over the farm. It was previously Kauai Organic Farms and a ginger and turmeric farm, and had been since the 90s. The previous owner was getting old and tired, and weeds were running amok. And don't get me wrong, they still are. And in organic and regenerative farming, it is difficult to control weeds, especially in an area like Hawaii, where you get an abundant amount of sunlight and rainfall. But the biggest benefit is weed suppression. So we plant cover crops at a higher rate than most, and we really focus on dense crops so we can shade out the weeds for an entire year. That's been a really big benefit. The second benefit is water infiltration. Even though we have really good, healthy volcanic soils, we can have rain events. Last year we got 18 inches of rain in 36 hours, and there can be 6 inches in an hour that come down. And so trying to hold our topsoil in place, having all of the organic matter there, and the microbiology really helps water infiltration. And thirdly, I do believe, and even though our crops don't rely on it, we provide a habitat for the wildlife around here and the pollinators. One thing that's been really exciting to see is we have some pheasants and some native geese, and they just thrive off of the grain crops. And we get some nuisances as well, as like the feral hogs, but we deal with that.
So benefits of weed control, dealing with extreme events like rain, and like the biodiversity benefits. How about drought? Because we all picture Kauai as this lush, environment year round, but is that the case in Kauai?
No, not at all. So we do have a rainy season, and right now we're actually in the dry time of the year. Last year we went a full 2.5 months without a drop of rain. So we irrigated nearly 24/7. And that's another benefit of the cover crops, is the higher percentage of organic matter in your soil. You can retain moisture, and it sort of acts like a sponge. So like right now, we don't irrigate our cover crops, but so what we've been able to do is get good seed germination by having that high amount of organic matter in the soil. And then we get hardier plants as well. Those plants have to struggle a little bit to reach down and find the moisture, but with our soils that are loose because of the organic matter, they're able to get down there and soak up the nutrients. The other part of that is we don't use organic fertilizers at all on our cover crops. And so what we try to do is throw nitrogen fixing crops in there. And the first crop after one of our cash crops can struggle a little bit, but the second, third, fourth, fifth cover crop thereafter, there's no issue at all. And moving forward with MegaFood and why we started this trial, what we're really trying to focus on is carbon sequestration, along with the cover cropping scheme and the Johnson-Su bioreactor. And that's dictated primarily by our microbiology in the soil.
Right. You also mentioned a little bit about nutrients. So do you know if the improvement in soil health and microbiology is leading to higher nutrient levels, or where are you in that journey?
Yeah, so from my own understanding and learning with regenerative ag, I've decided to kind of bite the bullet this year and really scale back our inputs. Traditionally with ginger and turmeric, you'd fertilize pre-plant, and then you'd fertilize 2 to 3 times throughout the season we usually use a broke down pelletized manure of some kind. And in the past, that's led to some issues with growing an abundant amount of weeds, possibly getting a little bit of burn out there from the nutrients, and not, because the rain events don't fall in line with the fertilizing schedule. So this year what we did is we did a pre-plant, and then we're going to be hands off except for a little bit of micronutrient feeding through the drip lines and foliar feeding. I think the biggest revelation for me has been that all of the nutrient we need is in the top 6 inches of soil that we're actually farming. And it's just about having the microbiology, the bacteria and fungi there to make those available to plants in plant ready form. And you've got to start somewhere. So this year we're going to go down that road. And another aspect that's regenerative ag that's really important to me is profitability. So, and we, as farmers, we've been taught that, from birth, that we need yield, and yield is all that matter. And we typically spend whatever it takes to get there without, really treating it like a business and realizing we can sacrifice a little bit of yield, improve our soil health, and still make more money by lowering our inputs. So this year's the first step on that journey.
Oh, it's a complex journey.
Yeah, to say the least.
It really is, and it's multifaceted. So Bethany, as a supplement company, a company that's concerned about nutrition, where's MegaFood on its journey to understand the link between soil health and nutrition? Is that something that MegaFood has explored or is planning on exploring?
Well, our biggest project that directly hits on this is with Jordan. So we have so many case studies. We have so many stories from individual farmers, and even some of the leading researchers in the field, like Tim Greiner. We have this idea that healthy soil gives us healthier foods. And we know that the nutrient density of food on a whole has been declining over the last 50 years, especially in some key nutrients. So we say, you're not eating your grandmother's broccoli. When we select for like how hardy it is and how well it can be transported, and the size of the plant rather than the nutrient density of it, like he said, farmers, they're tuned into yield. And so we've selected culturally in our farming system for these certain varietals, and they're not as not nutrient density. It wasn't the thing that we were selecting for. And then on top of that, we've been sort of doing some damage to our soils in such a way that it affects some of the ecology of the soil. And the hypothesis is that is one of the reasons we have less nutritious food, and that really healthy soil ecology results in more nutrient dense food. So like more nutrition per calorie, say. And there's not like a lot of research that proves that. And so one of the investments that we're making as a company is with Jordan's farm to support the many soil samples that are required over a 5-year period. We're basically doing a 5-year study, looking at these practices, these different regenerative practices side by side, and seeing over the course of 5 years, are the foods more nutrient dense? Is there more carbon drawdown? And is the soil ecology more healthy? And so I'll let you know. But that's and we picked this. I mean, Jordan's a great partner for this. You can tell how smart he is and how passionate he is. And dealing with a root crop like this, we're hoping that we hope to publish this in a peer-reviewed journal, this study. And root crops are a really vital piece of basic nutrition globally. So we're hoping that some of the learnings can be applied, and that people will be more nourished as a result of it.
Thank you. I just want to say we have about 10 minutes left. So I have one more question, then I'd like to open it up to any questions that we might have from folks that are participating. So the last question I had, it's actually for the two of you, which is, I understand that you're partnering to bring the work that Jordan's doing, the work that MegaFood's doing, kind of to the broader industry. Could you talk a little bit about that partnership and what you've been able to accomplish and what you're hoping to accomplish with that?
Sure. I mean, well, what you've got here is two really excited people that love to share what we're learning. So our current plan is, we've done farm tours. We've brought retailers to Jordan's farm, and he's had other suppliers that he works with come and learn about what he does there. But our vision is to sort of level up that experience, to combine the idea of a farm tour with really an opportunity to teach companies and inspire them, one, for like the capacity of regenerative agriculture and what that can do, how it can help big companies meet their scope 1 and scope 2 goals, how it can provide some security in their supply chain, and to say, here's the main pieces. We're going to bring in all the experts, Tim being one of them, but here's all the experts, and here's how to actually build a regenerative strategy within your own supply chain. So we can't just have like MegaFood and Jordan doing this stuff. Like we kind of need everybody doing this stuff. And so we're inviting companies, different retailers, big retailers, and companies that, buy turmeric and ginger from Jordan, to come and learn about how to scale up with their other partners, other places in their supply chain, how they think about building product, and start measuring what they're doing to try to shift the entire system more in this direction.
Thank you. Jordan, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think we've got a really good opportunity here to make a change. And with ginger and turmeric, there's not a lot of research in terms of cropping. And so what's exciting on the nutrient density front is we get to be the pioneers there, start with a blank slate, and year after year view the results there. What's been exciting in working with MegaFood is learning the following that they have, and the passion that they have, and starting to see that cup overflow into some of the other customers we have, and then wanting to join the forefront and make a change in the world. And that's really exciting. And as a farmer, I like being able to take back the narrative of the commercial and industrial farming out there, and realize we get to set our own goals with programs like this, rather than the goals of a seed company or a fertilizer company. We're in this for ourselves and our future generations. And one of the best things that happens to us is customer feedback, and just seeing how excited somebody is that they can buy ginger or turmeric fresh from us, or that our ginger and turmeric is in a product, and then they know that's grown on an organic and a more increasingly more and more regenerative farm, and they're not worrying about lead, for instance, in their crop, or what chemical it has on it, and knowing they need that to nourish their body, and we're growing it and we're doing it in an efficacious way that's good for the environment.
Jordan, what do your farm neighbors think about what you're doing? I'm just kind of curious, because what you're doing is a little bit different from standard turmeric and ginger production.
Well, that would be the benefit of being in Hawaii, is that the neighbors don't quite think you're cuckoo for doing some of this stuff. But my family back home and my friends back home, they would think we're crazy. And that is where the organic and regenerative side of farming has struggled, is we do worry, our work is out in the open. We can't hide what we're doing, and we do worry about what the neighbors or your family members think. But at the end of the day, it comes back to your own morals and your own bank account and what works for you. And so you have to get over that hurdle, but it's not been an issue here in Hawaii.
Great. I see that we have a question in the chat. So this is to each of you. It says, Bethany and Jordan, as you mentioned, this is from Jess. As you mentioned, soil samples on farm are expensive. How are you thinking about tracking greenhouse gas emission reductions to companies you work with? so that companies you work with can track it towards Scope 3 emission reductions?
Well, starting here, MegaFood pays for the soil samples to be tested. So that's one of the ways we're supporting Jordan to do this work, is he is one of our Healthy Farm Standard participants, and we are covering the costs of that each year. And it's a start, but really what we're standing for is a complete shift in how people think about agriculture as it relates to Scope 1 and Scope 2 and Scope 3 goals. Like, how does this all loop together? And we are like amoebas about how to accurately measure greenhouse gas emissions from agriculture currently. You can take individual soil samples from different parts of the lot, which is what we're doing, which, yes, it is expensive, but we also we're putting our attention on new technologies. So sensor technologies and satellite technologies. And we're in the very beginning stages of being able to accurately measure this stuff. And we're really interested in that. So we're collaborating and potentially financially supporting some initiatives related to that with Tim LaSalle and Chico State. So we are doing what we can and sort of biting the bullet and paying for it the expensive way to get the data now, while the technology quickly is catching up so that we can measure things way more accurately, so that, everyone can know, like with the Scope 3, what's happening in my entire supply chain and where all the greenhouse gas is coming and going and how much are we sequestering. Being able to more accurately measure things. It's a limitation for sure for the industry, but it's one a lot of people are working on, and that there's a lot of progress being had quickly.
So thank you, Bethany, for walking us through that. It certainly is a challenge, but I know the funding you're doing and the design of the trials on Jordan's farm are with replicants will have a lot of power in the analysis. So Nova has joined us, and she's got a question here. I appreciate the design of the Healthy Farm Standard. Can you speak more about the mechanisms for engaging other brands to purchase from Kauai Organic Farms and other suppliers? Also, how does MegaFood measure ROI? Is there any expectation of product level benefit or price premium / shelf space? Like, how are you thinking about ROI from this?
Sure. So the mechanisms for engaging other brands to purchase from Kauai Organic, people ask me all the time, can you connect with Jordan? We just did that last week. And we brought, we sell product at Whole Foods Market, and we brought them a couple of years ago to Jordan's farm, and they get really excited, and they buy all their turmeric from Jordan now too, I'm pretty sure. So we want everyone to know, we just have sort of an abundance mindset, and we connect people with Jordan every opportunity that we have. And same for our other suppliers. We really want to praise and elevate efforts like this. And so we do a lot of, our marketing is all focused on the cool stuff that our farmers are doing. We tell those stories all the time. As far as in ROI and measuring, one of the main measurement tools is the Healthy Farm Standard itself. So I mentioned it's a scorecard. It's actually, it's scored. So we're checking for these different, we're checking for soil health and conserving resources and for thriving livelihoods. So even just like farm labor and how that all works, and it's scored. And we're doing this with the majority. This year, it'll be more than 70% of our agricultural supplying partners. We're scoring it, and we do it every year. And so then we as a company are able to say, here's what the average score was, and here's what it was the next year, and here's what it was the next year. So basically some data, some teeth, not just saying, hey, we're a regenerative company, but saying this is how we know, and this is the progress that we're making. So that's one of the main ROIs that I use in our department itself. And it's interesting because, with organic, it was all about consumers begging for stuff and being like, we want organic. And then companies started to make more and more organic products. And then they could see that the rise in those product sales. And this is interesting. It's skipping a little bit. It's like, no, this is just the right thing to do. And everyone can enjoy the benefits of that as they learn about it. People are learning about it after the fact with this movement, I find more.
So it's less consumer demand driven right now. And a little more brand driven, if you will.
It's brand driven, and we're catching the consumers up as we go and telling the stories and educating them.
Well, I want to thank you both for this conversation today. We've just about run out of time. If any of our attendees have any additional questions, you can put them in the chat, or you can send them to Bethany, Jordan, or myself. You can find us on LinkedIn, I'm sure. And I don't know, Melanie, I'll hand it back over to you if you want to close us out here.
Absolutely. Well, this has been fantastic. It was really fascinating to hear about your personal journeys, Bethany and Jordan, towards regenerative agriculture. I've just found the conversation incredible, and I'm just afraid that we are out of time for today, but we do hope that everyone enjoyed this conversation with MegaFood and Kauai Organic Farms as we explored the positive impacts of regenerative agriculture practices. A very warm and special thank you to our guest, Bethany and Jordan, for your time and very thoughtful insights today. Just a little housekeeping, we will not be hosting a Pure Strategies Conversations webinar in July, but be sure to check our website or sign up for our newsletter for details about our webinar guests for August. And tomorrow, Tim will be hosting a session during the B Corp Global Climate Summit session with Chris Lyon, Manager of Community and Environmental Impact, 7th Generation, at noon Eastern Standard Time. They will explore 7th Generation's efforts to mitigate greenhouse gas hotspots in the company's supply chain. You can register for that through the Pure Strategies website, which also has lots of additional resources for you that might be of use for your work. And feel free to reach out to Tim directly. We look forward to connecting with you again or having you attend another Pure Strategies Conversations webinar in the near future. Stay well, stay cool, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.